We are very, very proud to be joined by the Assistant Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Senator Richard Durbin from the land of Lincoln, the great state of Illinois. And we appreciate his patience as we have worked through our agenda this morning. Senator Durbin is no stranger. We have a great presence in the state of Illinois with a number of affiliates there. Illinois is also the home of President Obama, but also the home of Abraham Lincoln. And I just think it's important that we note that this is 150 years since the beginning of the Civil War. And so this is a historic time, and it's also 50 years since the beginning of the 1960s. So we'll be talking more about that. But Dick Durbin needs no introduction, ladies and gentlemen. You know him. He's spoken to us. He's passionate on behalf of urban communities and the underserved. Urban leaguers, greet Richard Durbin.
Oh, thank you, Mark Morial. It's great to be with you and John Hoffmeister and Andrea Zopp. I think you're out here somewhere, Andrea. There you are. From the Chicago Urban League. We are glad you're here, and thanks to the Urban League for all that you have done. Mark noted the 150th anniversary of the beginning of the Civil War. I had nothing to do with it. I wasn't even in Congress at the time. So I don't want to take anything away from that celebration. I just don't want to be blamed for it. But I will tell you about another celebration that happened quite some time back. 1 year before the National Urban League was born, 1 year before then, 2,000 people gathered in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, and they celebrated the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln. At that banquet, there were United States senators, Civil War veterans, ambassadors, the son of Mr. Abraham Lincoln, and even former presidential candidates in Springfield, Illinois, to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And at that gathering of 2,000 people, not one single person of color. Hard to believe it, but the official celebration of the great emancipator's 100th birthday was a segregated affair. So not to be left out, the African-American community in my hometown of Springfield organized their own Lincoln Centennial at the African Methodist Episcopal Church. And at that dinner, a local minister looked out into the future and predicted something. He said 100 years from today, Americans would have, in his words, quote, banished all prejudice as a myth relegated to the dark days of Salem witchcraft. That's what the African-American minister said. Well, we haven't reached that promised land yet, but 100 years to the day after that minister made that prediction, there was another dinner in my hometown of Springfield, Illinois, celebrating the 200th anniversary of the birth of the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln, and the guest of honor and main speaker was the first African-American president of the United States, Barack Obama. So the wheels of change turn slowly, but they do turn. And the National Urban League has been part of good change in America for 100 years. The work that you have done in communities across Illinois and across America has made a profound difference, building businesses, building jobs, and building opportunities. This president inherited a mess, a big mess. For the record, when William Jefferson Clinton left the presidency, the national debt of the United States of America was $5 trillion. We were in our third year of budget surpluses, and he welcomed President George W. Bush and said, now for next year's budget, I give you a $120 billion surplus. 8 years later, when President George W. Bush left office, the $5 trillion national debt had grown to $11 trillion. 8 years, more than doubled. And instead of leaving President Obama a surplus for the coming year, he left him the biggest deficit in the history of the United States, $1.2 trillion. And we were losing hundreds of thousands of jobs by the week and by the month. How did we get in this mess in just 8 years? Well, we fought 2 wars and we didn't pay for them. We gave tax breaks to the wealthiest people in America in the middle of a war, which no president has ever done in history because it makes no sense. And we had a long range of programs signed by President Bush that weren't paid for. And we saw the national debt of this nation more than double, and the unemployment rate reach record heights, not seen since the Great Depression. That's what Barack Obama inherited. And when I hear my Republican friends preaching to us about fiscal conservatism, I like to remind them that if William Jefferson Clinton's policies would have continued, we would be dealing with a much better and a much different America. But that's not where we are. Where we are is in a budget situation that really affects every one of us. The House Republican majority has passed a budget bill to take $100 billion out of the budget over the next 6 months. They don't take it from the whole budget. They've got a slice of the pie that represents 12% of the budget. And they tell us that's where we're going to make our cuts. And that's the only place we're making our cuts. So, they take their scalpels, they roll up their sleeves, and where do they go? The biggest problem in America today. The overspending in America on the Head Start program. Can you believe that? This program that literally rescues kids across America from cities in Illinois and all across our nation from tough family circumstances, brings them to a classroom where they get a chance to be taught, to watch people read books, where mom and dad come in with them, where they're preparing them so when they go to pre-K and kindergarten, they're ready to learn, was the first casualty of the House Republican budget. The next casualty? The assistance, federal assistance to poor school districts across America. How are things back in your state, incidentally? In my state, Andrea can tell you, our state can't provide the funds to these school districts. And now the House Republicans would cut what few federal funds are coming their way. Well, there's a better way, my friends. First, let's acknowledge the obvious. We are in a deep hole. We have a $14 trillion national debt. We are borrowing 40 cents for every dollar we spend, whether it's for a missile or a food stamp, and we are borrowing it from our biggest competitor in the world, China, and the OPEC nations. Can't keep going this way. We know that. But if we're honest about bringing our house in order, we don't slice 12% of the budget and go after education of kids. If we're honest about it, we put everything on the table, right? We put the tax code on the table, a tax code that rewards a lot of folks who are pretty well off to start with. We start honestly looking at waste in this government, and there's plenty to find and plenty to deal with. We take a look at the sweetheart deals we have for the oil and gas companies across America. Last night was in a car coming in here. Well, I saw it. It didn't break into $5, but it was $4.99 a gallon for gasoline right here in the District of Columbia and going up. And you tell me we're giving a subsidy to these oil companies? Watch when their quarterly reports come out. And you tell me how much of a federal subsidy they need. Exxon needs a subsidy, but Head Start doesn't need money? Is this picture upside down? I think it is. So I'm sitting down with a group of 6 senators, 3 Republicans, 2 other Democrats, and myself, and we're trying to plot a way out of this that makes sense. Try to put everything on the table and make a plan that doesn't try to do everything in 6 months, but does it over a 10-year period of time. It's based on something called the Bowles-Simpson Commission, which I was on, and I think we've got a chance. But believe me, it won't be easy. And there'll be things I don't want to cut that are going to get cut. But that is one of the realities. Now, there's one issue, and I've called Mark about this personally, so I'm not talking out of school. There's one issue I want to bring up to you. I was born and raised in East St. Louis, Illinois. By the time, hello, East St. Louis. By the time I was off to college, my mother was a widow, and we didn't have any money. And lucky for me, the Soviets had launched Sputnik, the satellite, in 1957 and scared the hell out of Congress. And Congress created the National Defense Student Loan, National Defense Education Act, and this Durbin kid from East St. Louis borrowed money and finished college and law school. Never would have done it without that help. So every time I've had a chance as a congressman and a senator to help the next generation get the same chance I have, I voted for it. Whether it was a Pell Grant increase or whether it was student loans to make sure we took the middleman out, lowered the interest rates, and gave students a better deal. I was glad when President Obama did that. I thought it was the right thing. Now we are facing a new challenge, and I don't want to step on any toes here, but I have a position on an issue which is not the official position of your organization, and I want to say a word about it. The issue is for-profit schools, career colleges, okay? The Obama administration believes that we should take a look at these schools to make sure they are really offering an education that leads to a diploma, that leads to a job. And the reason they're asking this question, you may already know. These schools are aggressively recruiting students all over the United States for online education and other types of education, some of which is worthless. Story. Andrea, south side of Chicago. Young woman on the south side of Chicago says, I want to get into law enforcement. She signs up at a place called Westwood College, which is all over the country. She goes to school at Westwood College for 5 years to get her bachelor's degree in law enforcement. She finally graduates and gets her diploma and goes to the Chicago Police Department and says, have you got any openings in law enforcement? And they said, ma'am, that's not a real diploma. That's not going to get you a job in this place. Oh, she says, well, there must be some mistake. And she goes to the Cook County Sheriff's Office. They say, Westwood College, I'm sorry, ma'am. That is not a real diploma. Everywhere she went, they turned her away. So here she is, 27 years of age, after 5 years of education with a worthless diploma. That is not the worst part of the story. That is not the worst part of the story. The worst part of the story is this young woman has $90,000 in student loans to Westwood College. She is living in her parents' basement paying $700 a month for as long as she lives. You see, student loans are not dischargeable in bankruptcy. You carry those with you to the grave. And you can't borrow money to go back to school to get a real education because you're too deep in debt. So, what the Obama administration has said, we want to take a look at these for-profit schools, these career colleges, and make sure that the good ones get a chance to continue and the bad ones are put out of business. I don't think that's unreasonable. And I hope that you will consider that. It is rare that the major organizations involved in civil rights split, and your organization is split on this issue with the Children's Defense Fund, the NAACP, and the Leadership Council on Civil Rights, which hold to my position and the President's position. So I hope you will reconsider this. We need to establish standards to make sure that if these young people who don't know any better, how would she know Westwood College was worthless? She saw all the advertising. We've got to make sure that they get a good education, because if people are lured into these schools, lured into debt, and end up with no diploma and a big student loan debt, doesn't this sound like the subprime mortgage all over again? That's what it is. So please, I hope you'll think about it. I hope you'll consider it. And I hope you'll join me in this effort. And let me close by saying this. It's been a few years now, maybe 4, when I sat down with my colleague in the United States Senate and asked him to sit down with me in a private meeting in Chicago. And I said to Barack, you got to run for president. And he said, Durbin, I haven't even been in the Senate 2 years. And I said, 10,000 votes in the Senate won't make you a wise man. You've got something, my friend, that nobody else has, and I want you to run. He said, I better talk to Michelle. So Michelle saw me a week later, and she said, are you serious? And I said, I am serious. I want him to do this. He's young. If he doesn't make it, he's got a big life ahead of him, in public life or whatever it is. But he might just do it. This guy's got something. Well, we'll think it over and talk it over and pray over it. We'll get back to you. So while they were contemplating this, I decided to give them a helping hand by publicly endorsing Barack Obama for President of the United States. So I was the first United States senator to endorse him. And for 12 months, I was the only United States senator who endorsed him. Every time I looked over my shoulder for another senator to join me, they were all announcing they were running for president. That's what it's like in this place. But I will never forget, as long as I live, and we're just a short time away from the 4th anniversary of going to that Iowa caucus and watching what happened. A miracle happened in the cornfields of Iowa when Barack Obama won that caucus. It launched one of the most exciting presidential campaigns the Democrats have ever seen between two of the finest people we've ever had run for president, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. There's no question about that. And I have said that despite all the economic challenges this president's faced, despite all the things that they throw at him, I am not only honored, I am relieved that he is where he is today. His steady hand, his mind, his leadership, his values are what America needs today to lead us through this time of crisis. We know this. And we know that just like that minister in Springfield, Illinois, sometimes you have to wait for a dream to come true. But our dream has been realized, and we're going to keep working to make sure this president continues to lead America forward with the Urban League. Thank you all very much.